Serious Sam's Alpha, for the most part, was a completely different game. If you'd like to see my full review on the game, you can click that little icon that should appear on the top right corner of the video any second now. Ah, there it is. Unless you downloaded this video, which would be rather strange. After the alpha was essentially scrapped, they moved on to creating what ended up to be the final game. Between that period of time, we were given access to a public beta demo in May, followed by a second version in December of 2000. The two demos had a fair share of differences, and the second being only 3 months away from the final release, it's interesting to see how quickly they managed to polish it. I was wondering one day, what would happen if we mixed the files from the alpha, public test 1, public test 2, and final release around? Those results just might surprise you. I kept out a few mixes as they didn't really differ much from various recordings. But without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Putting the public test 1 files into the alpha had some scary results. Here's what I came across ordered by what I had spotted first. I was first greeted by a strange shotgun, followed by an immediate idle animation. After then giving myself all the weapons, I then played around with a few of them to notice that bizarre animations particularly might become a bit of a trend here. I selected the Colts, and that's when I realized these textures weren't a case of garbage textures, but what had actually happened was the UV mapping had been thrown all over the place. Some of Sam's skin was on the base model of the Colts. That's pretty eerie. To my surprise, the double-barreled shotgun was for the most part completely fine. Again, the UV mapping of Sam's flesh was completely messed, but otherwise it just worked fine. I took out the single shotgun again. Man, in hindsight, this gun has a large number of problems when swapping between them. The firing speed was lengthened to what appeared to be 3 times, and for whatever reason, as we saw earlier, the UV mapping is ruined. The minigun was interesting. Sam couldn't stop throwing it up in the air while shooting, otherwise it worked fine, but have fun targeting with this giant gun in front of your face. The rocket launcher had no change. I thought it might be positioned in the center such as the public test 1 had, alas no change occurred. Then I went outside into King Valley to check out the enemies. Oh boy, the beheaded soldiers looked fine upon first glance, but whatever's going on with that arachnoid in the background, well, I think he needs a doctor. When you kill him, he instantly smacks his face onto the ground. Aw, don't be sad, arachnoid. You did a pretty good job. The werebull worked fine, which shocked me. Even his animations remained intact, at least aside from the death animation. The werebull would just stop in its tracks when you kill it. Guess he went off unfazed. I then spotted a flying gnar. No, seriously, it wasn't a limbless hovering gnar, it was literally a flying gnar. It looks like that face-sitting technique I've heard so much about, so that's how you do it. Moving along here, I put the final release files into the alpha, and I noticed some similar problems with the knife as I had before. Not much of a difference here. The same goes with the Colts. The double-barreled shotgun seemed to work fine as well, until I stopped firing it. Sam, I think your trigger finger has gotten a little out of control. When I selected the minigun, I was introduced to one of the most glorious sights I'd ever seen. I took out the Tommy gun and, hey, this looks a tad familiar to a pre-release screenshot. I then took out the rocket launcher. Aw, how cute, look at this tiny little rocket launcher. I'll admit I was a tad surprised to see it took no form of the final release's rocket launcher, and quite honestly, I'm not sure why. The grenade launcher took a change of view model, but otherwise it was exactly the same. Nope, still can't charge it. The laser gun is... why, it's beautiful! What happens if I shoot it? Oh, the game crashes. What a shame. When I went outside, hey, a hovering bull. The arachnoid looked a lot better this time, but his animations were still pretty messed up. Oi, I forgot just how bad this camera was. When a clear showed up, I was seriously impressed. It seems the clear's animation went under the least amount of changes, and by that I mean in regard of its model. I do know that some of the attack animations were changed for the final game. Oh no, not the face-sitting gnars again! Looks like the kamikazes wanted to try an even more direct approach this time around. Yeah, I get it, why not smack me when you actually get closer to me, show off. Putting the alpha files into the public test 1 caused a lot of issues upon launching it. Oh wow, I can't even move. Something really weird is going on in the console. I better do a bit of work before I try this again. I had to separate the files in different partitions to get any functional results. When I did finally get some stuff working, the first thing I noticed was the kind of okay looking Colts. I think the revolving partition is correctly mapped as well as the back lever, but the rest of it seems completely off. I then went outside to see the beheaded soldiers and, well, at least they're getting exercise, I guess. Oh, what is that? What is that? Is that a gnar? Oh, the slow walk! The slow walk! Get away from me! Ugh! Ew. What is going on with this knife? Sam's pretty desperate to kill something. Look at that shotgun world model. It almost looks like the shotgun has a scope. A shotgun with a scope. That can't go wrong, right? When I got the single shotgun, I was instantly greeted with a very majestic shoot animation. Feels like Sam's about to reveal his greatest magic trick yet, and it's concealed right in the barrels of this shotgun. Take a closer look, if you dare. Aw man, now we got another case of desperate trigger fingers. There's hundreds of monsters just around the corner, Sam. Oh, what's this now? It's a Crawlakazi! Oh. Oh, Sam, that looks painful. So something happened to the Colts. Something. I guess I'll take that part back about the revolving partition. Or not? Oh hey, what do you know? The double-barreled shotgun from the alpha works just fine in the public test. The arachnoid looks great here too, aside from the death animation. That's another trend I've noticed. Particularly death animations always seem to be a bit screwy. Looks like the minigun works fine aside from requiring a spinny animation before firing. Cool. Cool. It's positioned in the lower right of the screen like in the alpha, not really looking too sharp with the location of the crosshair. Oh man, the NAR strikes again! Oh hey, look at that! The biomech appears to work just fine.
Oh my goodness!
Well, the death animation appears to actually work with the biomech. That's certainly a change. This furthers my curiosity for why you never see a biomech in the alpha. I really wonder why, honestly. Well, that's death. Either Sam's got a rod up his ass, or this is some new defensive technique we humans are yet to be introduced to. I think the prior assumption is probably more accurate. When I put the alpha files into the second public test, I actually just loaded up demo recordings as they provide essentially the same experience I would have. Or so I thought, as it appears whatever I did to the game's files made the emulated input completely whacked. I guess one incorrectly sized model can change the input scenarios greatly. Makes sense though, someone might have bumped into something larger than assumed, and from that point everything would get all screwy. Looks like the arachnoid still works properly. That's good to see. Whoa, what's going on with that minigun? Isn't that heavy? Is that even possible? I don't think Sam is even holding the minigun. Okay, confirmed, this isn't possible. Well, I mean, what did I expect? Was that hand not an instant giveaway? Well, that's a rather strange rocket launcher. Is this because of the view model difference? If so, what's up with those rocket projectiles? They're like a pure mix between the alpha and final rockets. That's just plain bizarre. Tommy gun still works relatively the same. The double-barrel shotgun introduces a consistent investigative idle position. Sam is really intrigued by this shotgun. Maybe you should pay more attention to whatever's going on with his arm, though. Whoa, now this is a knife. Was it always like this in the second public test? Oh, well, apparently so. Not even the rocket launcher fires jibs this far. What even happened here? Well, if that's not romance, I don't know what is. That arachnoid is pretty angry with something. Oh hey, look at that, a kamikaze's doing the worm in the background. Good for him. I put the public test 1 files into the second public test, and this introduced some new crashes to the game. For some reason, now and then when shooting a wearable, the game would just crash. That or something else happened in the background at the same time, causing a crash to occur. Biomechs crashed the game here, so if that was somehow related, I wouldn't be too surprised. The wearables have been an otherwise stable entity, and it'd surprise me if this was actually the cause of the crash. The minigun seems to work a lot better in this case, though Sam still doesn't know how to properly hold it. Just a little more practice and you'll be well on your way to using 2 hands. I mean, what will the ladies think if your one hand becomes so muscular? And there's our second crash. I assumed as such. That biomech doesn't want to be seen in that outfit in the Public Test 2 universe. And finally putting the alpha files into the final release. Seeing as the second public test wasn't much different from the final release,
let's rock and roll.
Surely putting the alpha files into the final release wouldn't result much differently than when we put them in the second public test, right? Well, actually yes, but in the final release we've got cheats, something you couldn't use in the public tests. Now we can check out how the grenade launcher looks, and the answer is really cool. I actually really like this alternative view model for the grenade launcher, but I'm wondering why only the view model was changed here. Where's the gray model? Whatever the case, things do get a bit weird when you charge the launcher. Perhaps this view model was changed for the final release as this launcher partition itself looks a bit, well, let's say that it redefines physics. Oh dear, what happened to the laser gun? Looks like this took more of the form from the alpha but used the models and textures from the final release. This is, moving on. And last but not least, here's the Canon. The infamous Canon that was in the alpha but you couldn't use it. Was that an early case of DRM protection so someone wouldn't hack Crow Team and send off copies of the game? I sincerely doubt that. Still remains a mystery to me. But anyways, the Canon works as it should here in its alpha form, if not for a few inaccuracies with the animations. The firing works the same and well, yeah.
Here comes trouble!
Are you sure it's not trouble that's coming for you, Sam? Those warped chess pieces look pretty menacing. Then again, you can hold a minigun with one hand, so I guess yeah, you are the trouble here. Looks like we got a similar effect going on with the wearable, working fine until you shoot him dead. And of course, the spawn of the biomech further down the sandy dunes crashes the game. Looks like all the beheaded soldiers do the worm now. Good for them. The enemies for the most part held the same response to what happened in the second public test, but I managed to see this NAR play dead. That's pretty cool, right? So in the end, well that's what happens when you place various files from various Serious Sam builds into other various Serious Sam builds. Incompatibilities are a hell of a thing. Thanks for watching this rather bizarre video, and I'll catch you lovely frame raiders in the next one.